Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are in the country. Just want to welcome everyone to today's Geopath Out of Home Office Hours Insights training. This is the foundational session. So if you may recall, every month we're doing two sessions. On the first session of each month is the foundational level session, which we will, let me skip ahead to the next slide, which where we basically will walk through the Insight Suite. So this is the session you come to if you want to learn about what's changing with the Insight Suite, any new features and functionality, and just basically overall learn how to use the tool and get tips and tricks as we go along. With these sessions, we will also do a specific workflow, and that workflow will usually entail how to pull the data that we are going to use in our advanced session. So we want to start tying them together in that way. So you'll be able to see like, oh, okay, how do they get the data that they're going to talk about the analysis of and the application of in the advanced sessions. And so just one note, obviously today is Wednesday. Usually we do these on Thursdays and Fridays. We just needed to make some, some adjustments. One, we were trying to do more of a summer schedule, but that got a little bit wonky. And we'll talk more about that at the end of the session when we talk about our August sessions. And just also, I want to say I'm here with Brian Shopper, as always, who's with Geopath. He's going to be doing the walkthrough today.
Hi, everyone.
And I also have another special guest here today, Brian Rue. So both Geopath Brians are here today. And so Brian's our in-house expert on O-Plan. And one of the big things you'll see as we walk into the tool today is that now available in the Insight Suite as market average planning. So we're really super excited about that. And I wanted to have Brian here, who can also just provide context from the legacy tool into kind of what is happening and what's in the new tool. So if there's any questions like that, that would be great to have him here live as well. Also, if you have any questions, as always, please ask them right along in the session in the chat widget or the question widget. We'll monitor them as much as possible and try to answer the questions as they come in. And one reminder before we do totally jump into it, the impression data in the Insight Suite is still for non-commercial use as we're still in the beta phase. Again, targeting the end of September, October 1 to come out of that beta phase. And also, please continue to explore the tool and provide feedback, especially with the new features and functionality as they come out. Because, as I've said in past sessions, this is really helpful for us. Like, as you explore the new market average functionality, please let us know how it can be improved or what if you have any new ideas, let us know and we're happy to do that. Just for those, again, for those of you who may be first time joining, first time seeing the tool, one of the key things that we hope everybody takes from this as they explore the Insight Suite is this audience first approach. That's one of the things that we're really proud about and is one thing that is really helpful in helping redefine the industry and how we measure. So you'll see that there's more than 8,000 audiences and just a number of ways to filter and be very interactive with and visual with how you look at inventory and how you filter inventory, etc. But without further ado, I want to talk about some of the features updates, and then we'll go into the tool and really explore how you use them and what they are. But the key thing is that there's two actually really big things. So one of the first things is the market planning tool. So you'll see when you're in Workspace, and we will spend a lot of time in Workspace today, kind of building on the work we did last month. So last month we set up a project and showed you how to do that using Create New Inventory Plan. But now we'll also go in there and do another project and show you how you do that using Market Plan as well. So again, you can easily do this by clicking the call to action button. So the purple button on the left is for creating a new market average plan. The one on the right is an inventory specific plan. And you can also do that other ways just by opening up a project itself. But once you do click into the market planning, this is one of the first screens you will see. And you see here you can do, this is where you're starting to set your overall, defining the plan overall. So you're selecting your DMA, you're selecting your audience, you can select the media type, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second, and then also your specific kind of goals for the plan itself. So again, talking a little bit more about this, you're able to add a DMA, and you can see up here on the top right, you can still, like in O-Plan, do add top 10, add top 20, but also you just create the list and search and add the selected ones you want. And similarly here, similar to actually the kind of inventory planning section, you're able to add all the different consumer profiles. So not just, 18 plus or the census-based kind of set of audiences that we have currently in O-Plan. You're able to look at against the more behavioral audiences, the prison premier segments. So that's another exciting change that is in the market planning tool. And then this is another interesting feature as well. So you can see here, and Brian will talk more about this when he's setting up a project, but you can add the different media types as an individual or as a group. So for example, if you want to look at street furniture in particular, maybe transit shelters and newsstands and digital kiosks all go together for you, you can click those and add them as a group, or you can look at each one of those individually in the plan. So that's an interesting and hopefully helpful feature change for everyone. And then next. So then also with the market planning tool, this is like I was saying earlier, you can set your goals, so your weekly TRP goals, your plan length, effective reach, as well as allocation method. So for now, in the short term, it does an equal allocation method, but that functionality will change. And then there's this button here, generate plans, and you do that, and down below as well, your plans start to get generated. Again, like I said, we'll look at a plan specifically in a moment. And then also you can edit plans by clicking edit, and you'll see everyone listed here in terms of those that have inventory in that market and how much. For now, it is truly a market average tool. You're not able to specify specific operators. It does look at the entire market and provide an average there. That is something that I would imagine will evolve. I would be curious to hear feedback from our members as they start to use the tool, if that is needed, which I would imagine would be. And I think a feature we're prepared to add. Also, a quick change to the inventory aspect of the market planning tool in terms of just being able to see everything together. So market plan, you can see here the inventory as well as places. And all this can ultimately be exported as a CSV file in total as well. A second really big announcement is that as of today, you can see place-based inventory in the Insight Suite. For a number of audited members. I believe there's 8 or so right now in the tool, with more to be added as their inventory comes out of auditing. So that's another really exciting aspect. And again, you'll be able to look at that side by side with roadside inventory. I know we've announced this a couple times in different ways, that we're doing the pilot and then we're coming out of the pilot. And now it is now available in the Insight Suite. So we're super excited about that. Other things, the layers and display options. You can now actually, in places, do mapping. We'll show you that. So this is similar functionality to what's in the Explore feature. There's a layer and display options in that feature as well. So functions largely similarly, except this is just solely around place sets. And you can also map your place sets in the filter inventory area as well. But this is another place where you can set them up right in the work stream of actually developing your place sets. And again, place sets being points of interest. And again, allows you to customize, create different base maps, logos, etc., for your places, sets of places. And also, this is a question actually we got today in Geek Out. So one new change is when you export your inventory in the Insight Suite, it will show what is actually highlighted as columns in the table format. So to see all of the entire list that used to get exported, you can just come here into your customized columns and just add as many or as few as you want. So this is one change that we'll show you again in the future. You can also explore, this was another member request that we were able to actually add to the Insight Suite. So as you're creating a plan, and let's say you have 25 units that you want to look at, rather than having to go in and export the PDF of the inventory detail sheet, you can group those together and export those as a group of detail sheets together in either as landscape or in portrait method as well. And here's, I apologize, this is what I was talking about a moment ago about being able to customize the columns. And so that customization actually plays out into what you export as a CSV file as well. And then just in general, the authentication status as well gives you just more information. Not too much, just talk about that. So want to pause. Any questions? I hope people are excited about today. We're excited about a lot of the new features that we're going to be going over today. Oh, and one last thing before I hand it off to Brian to take over. As I said, we're going to be focusing a lot on the market average functionality, but we are also going to use our use case, which Brian will introduce, that we're going to be talking about on Friday, but we're going to use that as the driving kind of workflow as we pull the data and walk you through the Insight Suite. Cool. Sorry. That's okay.
Okay. Okay, so we're all switched over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as Scott just said, we are doing a use case on Friday that is it's actually sort of a mirror image in a way of the use case that we did last month. Last month we examined a particular use case from the operator's perspective. And on Friday, we're going to be reimagining and re-examining that one from the agency side and just sort of seeing how the interpretation of the data is different and how you can actually use the data and inform the buying process in a different way.
And just for everyone's awareness, this is something we're going to try to do more and more often. So as Brian said, so last month we did the use case around a group of Toyota dealerships in Eastern PA, and we did that from an operator's perspective. And now we're going to, and we have somebody from EMC Outdoor, Matthew Keltzner, who will be with us on Friday. Hopefully you've seen the announcements. And we're going to look at that same use case from an agency perspective. So I think it's really great to see the mirror image of that. And we'll try to do that more and more. I think that provides a lot of learning for everybody.
Absolutely. So sort of in that vein, we're going to be looking at basically the building blocks of the use case today. And then on Friday will basically be the interpretation of the data and sort of more at a high level what you would do with that. So today we're going to look at what makes up the use case itself, and we'll use that as our example to go through the Insight Suite. As Scott mentioned earlier, we're going to spend a good amount of time today on within the workspace module, which is right over here. And within that, we will be looking at the new market planning tool and walking through how to do a scenario within that, and just sort of talking about what you can do with that right now. And we'll also be going through a little bit of the places module. And right here, this is the explore module. I'll be walking through that as well. So if you've never logged into the Insight Suite before, just so you know, this is the landing page. This is where you get dropped off when you log in. This is the explore module. A good amount of time spent right now is in this module, but as the tool keeps building and evolving, a lot of the different modules offer different functionalities. So there's a lot that you can do in some now, and your time will be spent differently as it evolves even further. Like I said, I'll take a little walk through this, but I just want to before anything, I just want to highlight what each of the different modules do. The workspace module is market planning and campaign planning. And this is where largely the ADS and O-plan functionality will be. And like I said, we'll explore that in detail later. The Explore modules where we just were, and that's sort of the graphic side of everything, looking at the map and actually sort of seeing where inventory falls in that sense. And we'll take a look through that as well. The places is points of interest and locations, and we can use that in conjunction with inventory. And then reports is coming soon, and that's post-campaign analytics and charts and graphs and things like that. So we're going to go back to the Explore module, and let's just do a quick walkthrough of this for those who are unfamiliar with that. Yeah, so when you're within the Insight Suite, within the Explore module, a couple things across the top here. This is really these 4 tabs where you do almost everything that you need in the Explore module. In Define Target, you can set your market at the DMA level and then select Audience here. And this is broken down into the population variables, which is largely census-based and similar to our legacy variables. Consumer profiles, that is a majority of the about 8,000 audience variables that we have in here. And this is spending and buying behaviors, psychographics, environmentalism, things like that. And then finally, Prism Premier is from our partners at Claritas. And that is their pre-bucketed audience segments. And there's 68 different segments. Every household in the US falls into one of them. And they're just good ways to sort of target an audience if you have a general idea of the kind of people you want to go after. So that is what you can do in the Define Target tab. Filter inventory is exactly what it seems like. If you look over here, we have over 420,000 different pieces of inventory in the US. And so there's a really big number of ways to filter that down. And you can do it by media types. As Scott said, place-based is now in here, which is really exciting. I just want to actually point out something in the place-based itself. So say if you click on place-based, it's going to, oh, I have to hit apply first. It's going to update. You'll notice on the right-hand side over here, these metrics are going to change, and also the options here will change in just a second. There we go. So this is the spread of place-based inventory across the US right now. I think there's about 8 or 9 members. We'll take a look in a second. But within this, and it's the same thing as within the roadside, you can look at the subdivisions of all of these. So for furniture, for example, I was looking through this earlier, and there's a pretty interesting one I found. I think it's this one here. Yeah, chair back decals and tabletop decals. So say you wanted to look for a specific type of place-based, you can do it here, and you could apply that. So that's one way to filter. We'll leave place-based on and use this as our example. So you can also filter by operator. So as we were saying earlier, the place-based, it's about 8 or 9 members right now, and this will be growing as
this will continue to grow pretty quickly, pretty rapidly. See that kind of move on.
So you can filter this way. So say you only wanted to see new traditions media, for example. So you could click on one of these members and hit apply, and it would only show that operator's inventory. I'm going to switch over to roadside just for a second so we can hit clear. Just so we can see some of the other filtering options. We'll do just roadside. Again, different media types you can filter that way. Media attributes, so you could do orientation, so north, south, any of these directions. Panel size in width and height. Location, there's, as I said earlier, within Define Target, you can do by the DMA level, but if you go into the location inventory filter, you can get down to a much smaller level. So you can get down to zip code level, CBSA, county, and this will keep expanding too with even more specific locations as we evolve the tool.
And just part of the reason for that is like when you're defining that in the defined target area, you're basically narrowing the inventory that you're going to be looking at. So you just want to look at the DMA, and then you come here and you kind of get more granular with that. It's just a way to filter out the rest of the inventory from across the country.
And we'll actually do exactly that workflow in our example. So you could do it by location. Say you have an Excel sheet or an email with a group of specific units that you'd like to look at. You can just grab those IDs, either the plant IDs or the Geopath IDs, and just paste them right in here and hit apply, and it'll validate them for you. So if you have maybe mistyped one, or if one of them doesn't match, it'll let you know, and it'll apply to all the other ones. Threshold filters, these are a good way. Say you only want to see, for this one, for example, you only wanted to see an audience target comp of over 25%. Say the market average was 25%, and you wanted to see what was above average in the market. You could use this slider here to just set your goals above that. And then you can save inventory sets. I'll show how to do that later in our example, and you can call them back up here. Let's move over to this next tab, layers. Sorry
to interrupt, but just so we got a question I thought we could talk about right before you jump over to this next section. The question is around actually just what is place-based as opposed to roadside?
Oh, sure.
And so that's a really great question, and maybe something we just
probably
lost over, and I know I did that.
Yeah, I did.
So you can think about place-based as anything that's like in-venue measurement, right? So things in bars, restaurants,
supermarkets,
hospitals. There's stuff. We have some universities, I believe, as well, and also transit stations as well. So that's a subtle change for us. And so actually, I'm glad this question was asked, because we should have mentioned that earlier. So thinking about previously, inventory in transit stations was considered in our transit inventory. Now that is all clustered under place-based as well. So.
Yeah, that's a great question. I completely glossed over that too. So moving along to the layers and display options, this is largely map level variables that you can manipulate with the tool here. So you can call back up saved inventory sets and saved place sets. You can actually look at the audience delivery for a single unit. So say you had a unit ID, you can paste that unit ID there. And see the footprint of that audience. And we can look at stuff like that later on. But you can also map out a specific geography. Say you wanted to have the boundary of a county on the map, you could do that. Over in display options here, you can uncheck or check a few of the things over here. So mostly all of these things that you see sort of around the edge of the map here, you can add on or remove. You can also add custom logos and custom text, so you can sort of make it more personalized. And then you can actually, if you come to the Actions tab, you can actually save that view for later, or you can print that view to a PDF and use it in a presentation, things like that. So there's a lot in the Explore module. We'll go through this in our just by way of doing our example today. So if that seemed fast, don't worry, we'll actually put it to use in a second. So let's jump into the example. I'm going to go to this Places tab right here. Or the Places module, sorry, and just a little bit of background on the use case from last month and also for Friday. So the way we looked at it last month, it was 3 Toyota dealers in the Allentown, Pennsylvania CVSA, sort of just outside Philadelphia, and we were working with Adams Outdoor last month, and we were basically just looking at specific audiences and units within that area around those dealers, and how the different audiences are distributed across the market. People who are interested in buying pickup trucks seem to pass by boards in a certain area and presumably reside in those areas, and then you have people who are in the market for a sedan, totally different range of boards that are effective at reaching those people. So that was kind of how we went about it. On Friday, the idea is to sort of look at the same idea, but from the agency perspective, and go into it and just look at all of the units in the area. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to look at the same 3 dealerships and just look at some bulletins in the area and start to look at them against specific audiences and see how that might look. So first thing we want to do, I came to this Places module over here. And I just want to find those 3 dealerships to start. So there's the Places module is set up very similarly to the Explore module is. These tabs across the top are they'll expand just like the other one. So I'm going to just search Toyota. I know that they're Toyota dealers that we're looking for. So I'll hit search, and at the very first search level, you're looking across the entire US. But from there, there's a bunch of different ways that we can actually net the places and points of interest down. So each of these expand down here. So brands, you could look at, these might be, dealerships that sell both Lexus and Toyota, things like that. So you could select any one of these and use that. Industry, you could look new or used or repair even. Place types, so this you could look, similar to the other ones, but you can just get a little bit more specific with the different types of places that we're looking at. And again, it's just because we only searched Toyota, so it's fairly broad. There's a lot of things that might fall into that. But let's look, this is going to be very useful for our purposes today. Let's filter by a market in this case. So you could actually do it around an address, or say you roughly know where it is, you could draw a polygon or a radius. But let's look in a specific market. I know that this is in the Allentown CBSA, CBSA. We're gonna hit apply. Okay, you can see there's these three over here. We'll zoom in a little bit. So that's the CBSA boundary right there. These are the three dealerships that we were looking at. I know just from having done this that these are those only three Toyota dealerships in the CBSA actually. So there's actually a couple things we can do with that. Let me save this for the purposes of using it in the rest of the examples. So I'm going to open back up this find and define tab. And here I'm going to come down to this save as new place set. And you can call it anything you want. I'm going to call it Allentown Toyota. And I'm actually not going to save this because I saved this earlier. I don't want to duplicate my place sets. But so you can hit create place set, and then that will be saved to your link to your account in the Insights suite, and you can use that between modules on the side here, and it's just saved to your account. So you can actually call up old place sets in My Places, and layers and display options. This is something. There's a new feature actually from this most recent release. This is very similar to the layers and display options that are in the Explore tab or Explore module, but you can just call different things back up onto the map, and you can add, again, custom logos, custom text, you can change the base maps, just a little bit more functionality that you can sort of manipulate the map and make it look more how you want it. Say you wanted to just export how this looks, or you wanted to save how this looks. You can do a lot of things here, but you can do even more with this kind of thing in the Explore module itself. So now that we have our playset saved of those three dealerships, we're just going to go right back into the Explore tab, and we'll start putting together a bigger example. So let that catch up. All right, so we'll go right across from the left to the right. Define target. So I know that these are within the Philadelphia DMA. I'm going to start at that level. I'll hit apply. So you notice, you see all these little teal dots across the US right now, but once you apply a specific market, you'll notice that, just a second, come up. There.
Or just
There we go.
Yeah, just as the tool
Took a second.
coming up. Yeah, and one of the things we defined, and Brian, I'm sure will say this shortly, or was going to, just the audience we're trying to use is prospecting.
Yes, sorry, I didn't get to that.
No, it's okay. Prospecting Toyota dealers, and then also eventually, like, how do you use the tool to conquest, or the data, the Geopath,
Right.
to conquest potential Honda auto intenders. So that's at a high level the audiences we're going to try to reach. So.
Right, today and also on Friday, that's exactly how the use case is going to be set up. So now that we have the market, I'm just going to, before we do anything else, I just want to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see what the tool actually shows you when you're looking at inventory up close. So at this level, this is kind of the boundary. You can see the boundary of the whole DMA here. Everything that's not showing up has been excluded from the search. But so there's a whole mess of color here. We get a little bit closer to the center so we can see just a little bit closer, because there's a lot of different inventory types here that we can take a look at. Once you get to a certain zoom level, actually, move a little bit north so you can get a better view. But once you get to a certain zoom level, you actually get a sense of directionality and the number of facings. So let me just pull up this key here so everybody can see what I'm seeing. So these orange ones are bulletins, posters, yellow, street furniture here, green. Walls and murals are these purple ones. And then, like we were talking about, newly added is these place-based ones, which are these blue square. They're not round, actually, which is a nice little difference there. But in addition to the different colors and icons, the way that these sort of semicircles are facing show you the way that the inventory faces. So this one here is, let's see, that's a north-facing one.
It basically it shows you the directionality,
yes,
as well as the number of faces.
Yes, so this one here,
circle has 4.
That looks like a 4. It's hard to find those when you're not just stumbling on one. But yeah, that looks like that's got 4 faces, which is interesting. So this is, we're within the DMA. I want to zoom up a little bit. I know that the Allentown CVSA is a little bit northwest of here, so let's go find that. I need to zoom out a little bit. Yeah, it's right up here. So let's go in here. And again, we're still at the DMA level, but I'm just kind of looking at this right now. Let's set our target. So we'll go back to define target, select audience. And so we're going to be looking at auto intenders, as Scott was saying. So that would fall into the consumer profiles because it's not census level, it's not Prism segments. It's one of these. So there's a lot in here. If you ever want to sort of get in there and just dig around, you can start at these different categories and go from there, or you can search. So I know for this one, we're going to look for Toyota. Oh, I have to spell it right though. So might shop, buy new vehicle, any Toyota dealer. So this is people who are looking to go to a Toyota dealer for any new or used car. So that's going to be the one we're going to use as our example today. So actually keep an eye on this right-hand group of metrics right here as I hit apply. And you'll notice that a lot of these numbers are actually going to change. So before I set an audience target, our audience was set at persons 0+, so absolutely everybody. And now that we've set a target, you can see that our target impressions is now a subset of our total impressions. Before we added an audience, it was the same. Our total and our target were the same because we didn't have a more specific target. But now that we do, we can see that's actually 14%, the target comps right here, 14% of the total makes up our target. You can see the TRPs and how the DMA as a whole right now indexes for this target. And as we apply different filters in different areas, all of these numbers change. This changes with every change you make in inventory and in place. So yeah, so we'll keep going from there. So we have our audience set, we have our market at the DMA level. Let's get even more specific with it. So I'm going to go to filter inventory, and let's go to media types, because for this example, I just want to look at bulletins. So I know that these are in freestanding, and I don't want digital bulletins. I want non-digital bulletins right here. So I'm going to hit apply, and it's going to filter out all the ones that are not bulletins, so it should just be all orange inventory in just a second.
And again, as we're waiting for this to come back into focus, so you would do this, and then you can look at the inventory on the right side in a number of different ways, right? Whether it's target comp, or depending on the project you're working on, or depending on the client's needs, you can filter the inventory in a number of different ways and look at that in terms of the top 25 for reaching that audience in terms of target comp, which is kind of a representation of how efficient that inventory is. Or maybe it's about target impressions or target index. So there's a whole host of different ways to look at it that Brian will show you in a moment. Yeah.
Actually, I have an idea, actually. So we're still looking at the DMA level. I'm going to give the tool a smaller area to look at. just give it less to process. Allentown. I know it's within the Allentown CBSA, so we'll set that, and then we'll filter for the inventory that way. When in doubt, refresh.
No, and this is a good, again, apologies, the tool is still in beta, so you do at times may run into a few glitches like this, and just hitting refresh often
I think that actually
does help and kind of gets it back into focus.
It did work.
So it's just a quick tip or trick if you're using the tool and it's not performing exactly how you want it to.
So yeah, that actually helps. So okay, so we now have our bulletins in the CBSA. So we're only looking at these. So let's actually get more specific. We have our audience target, which is people who are looking to go to any Toyota dealer. They're looking to buy a car. Let's look at based on, like Scott said, the target composition percentage, which is the people the boards that are most efficient for reaching this target. Let's look at the top 25 boards for reaching this target. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see that, because I think there's some up here actually. Oh, it's that one. Yeah, so it's actually a pretty interesting spread across the market here. So, all right, so we have these 25. We're going to use this later in our scenario in the workspace. So I'm going to save these for later. So you can go save as, and you can export them as a CSV. You can download the inventory sheets as a PDF. But I'm just going to save these as a new inventory set. And Toyota, Allentown. You can call it anything you want. I'm not going to actually say this one. I did this earlier. But so we're going to do that. And let's just take a look at one more audience, because Scott had mentioned about maybe conquesting and trying to get Honda dealers or Honda intenders. So I'm going to go back to define target and then select audience again. And just where we were before, I'm going to search Honda this time. And it's the same variable just for Honda this time. So I'm going to apply. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look for top 25 for Honda intenders.
And the reason why we're doing it like this is, again, given the context of the use case for Friday, it's from an agency perspective. So this would be an initial cut of looking at inventory, right? It's a mix of across the CBSA rather, the mix of all the inventory that meets the criteria of a bulletin for that audience. And so that would be the starting point. So this is kind of the raw data that we would start from for the use case. Mm-hmm. And that's why we wanted to pull it here for you guys. Okay, so, and those are the top 25 there. Again, save as a new inventory set. And I did this earlier, so I'm not going to do that. But so let's head over into the workspace, and we can actually take a look at this, the new market planning tool, and also at the inventory planning tool. So this is the workspace module. When you get here, you need to first create a new project, or if you have an existing project, you can do that. So we'll do new project. So we'll call this one. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask us questions as we go along.
Great project. Yes, that's a great point. Okay, so this is the project itself. We don't have any scenarios in here, but just a couple things before we do. You can change the name up here, but also by clicking that edit icon, you can add a description for your project, or you can add tags. So this one we could do auto, Toyota, Honda, and Pennsylvania. Yeah. This is something you know, as you get more and more projects, you can tag them, and then you can search for some later, so you can see all the ones that have to do with auto or Toyota or something like that. So we'll just hit save, and that's a save made to our project. All right, so let's create a scenario. All right, add scenario. And we'll call this, we'll start with the Honda one. Honda. Okay. And it's going into this project that we're in right now. You could put it in a different project if you wanted to. But since we're in here, I'm just going to use this project. So I hit create scenario. And now we're going to go to this next page. You can actually do both the market plan tool and the inventory planning tool from this same page. So let's do the market planning tool first. This is the new addition to the Insights Suite, to the workspace module that we wanted to bring up. This is where the O-plan functionality is going, and a lot of it is here now, and it's going to keep expanding as the tool builds even more. But yeah, let's just start making a market plan. And this is just a market average. So say you're looking at the market and you kind of know the audience and you want to see how many of a certain media type you need to buy to reach a certain goal. This is where you would go and do that. So we're going to start here at a DMA market. I know it's Philadelphia. Let's do New York too. Just it's kind of nearby. We'll just get a good understanding of the area itself. Audience. We'll add our audiences, and we'll also do 18 plus just for good measure. Toyota. Okay, and I'm going to do Honda as well because I know I want that one. Okay, I'm going to add those. So I've got my Honda, my Toyota. I don't want this person 0 plus one, and let's add 18 plus. I have that one saved as a custom one already. Okay, so we have our audiences. And let's add some media types. So this is where Scott was actually saying how you can add things as an individual or as a group. So for this one, we'll do a few. We can do let's do the bulletins that we're going to use. So bulletins, and we're going to do maybe we'll do posters, and maybe you can do some street furniture as well. We'll do transit shelters. Why not? So I'm going to add those each as individuals. You could add them as a group. Say that was, you tend to package them together. You could do it that way as well. But I'm going to add them individually. Down here, weekly TRPs. For this example, let's say our weekly TRP goal is 15. So we can just add that right there. You can change the plan length in weeks. We'll keep it as one. Effective reach, we'll say 1 time is effective. And we'll just leave everything else. So I'm going to hit generate plans now. And you'll see these are now loading. And we're basically looking at the market level. And once we expand, you can expand these plans here and look at the different media types within. So let's take a look at Philadelphia first. So in order to get the 15 TRP goal that we had, say we were using these 3 inventory types, we would need 2 bulletins out of the 2,000 that are in the market. We need about 3 out of 3,500. We need 4 out of the almost 600 in the market to get our weekly TRP goal. And you can actually take a look here. This is what Scott was saying earlier. You can take a look here at the operators that are in the market. And this is just saying 2 of this 2,000. It's very much so a market average tool right now. And you could remove one of these. Say you decided, oh, I don't want posters and I don't want transit shelters either. I just want to look bulletins. So how many bulletins would I need to get that 15 TRP goal? You can do that here as well. So let's update that. Or did it? Oh, it already did. So you would need 5 bulletins in the New York market or the Philadelphia market. Sorry. To get above or at your TRP goal. And you can look at that against other markets as well. New York is a very different market, so fewer bulletins but more transit shelters will get you closer to your goal that way. So let's jump over to the inventory. Actually before I do that, I'm going to click this market plan, my market plan thing, and this will show you a total of your total audiences. So we have a weekly TRP goal of 15. You can see person 0 plus for the 2 markets would get us just over 30. For the 2 markets for the Honda dealers would get us over 30. This would get us over 31. So this is just a good way to see a summary. Say you have a lot of markets and a lot of audiences in there. This is just a good way to see a summary overview
Well, if you're planning across multiple markets, it gives you a general sense. So if you have, like, you need to reach 50 TRPs across, you know, 3 different DMAs, it gives you that ability to look high level and then dig down into each DMA and kind of go more granular in that aspect as well.
Yep.
And then ultimately, I would imagine, like I said earlier, you know, the ability to look at different operators would be another functionality that will come down the line.
So I'm just going to head over to the inventory planning, and we'll just do a quick inventory plan here. Let's see. So our audience for this one, we will do Honda, or Honda was this one. So I'm going to go to consumer profiles, do Honda, and this one, so I'll save the audience, save, success. And then I'm just going to go to my saved audiences and find that. I think it's this one. Nope, that's right. Honda. Apply. So we have that as our audience. I know that this is the Philadelphia DMA, so we'll do that. Apply. Okay. So we have our audience. We have our market set. Let's add a goal. We know our TRP goal is 15, and this is just for so you can see. You know, once you add inventory and you have your audience, you can see how everything's performing. You can sort of adjust your goals and reach your frequency along the way. So let's add some inventory. I'm going to add one of those inventory sets that we created earlier. So I'm going to go from saved inventory set down here. It's a little hard to see, so let me just find it. Actually, I can just search Honda. Here you go. Allentown Honda. I'd selected, so there should be 25 in here. That'll populate in just a second. Yep, 25 units. And let's also add those places that we saved earlier. Oh, right. I forgot about something before I move on, actually. I'm just going to hit calculate for reach so we can see the reach percentage. Oh, that's pretty good. So say, you know, you had to target reach percentage, you can see that, and you can add inventory or subtract inventory to help meet your goals that you set for yourself here.
Yeah, exactly. And those goals typically are generated by the client or by just the nature of the project.
Right.
So you can add those in, and maybe you have a TRP goal and not a reach goal. Or again, it really is dependent on the project itself.
Yes.
But you have the ability to add all, none, or some. And then it's just like a marker for you to get a sense of. And as you save the inventory set, you'll see all your metrics.
Yes.
Come up,
Oh yeah, actually, I forgot about that.
Come up there.
Yeah, so you'll see the actual metrics once that saves. You'll see the inventory metrics up here as it loads. Yeah, so way above our TRP goal.
Yep, and so you can see that as you're playing. And again, maybe the TRP goal we thought it was a bit fictitious, but just as an example marker for now.
Right, and just one more thing you can do, you can actually add in place sets as well. So Allentown Toyota dealers, can hit apply, those are the 3 we're looking at. And so you can just have this, so you can just, you know, this is just one scenario. You can make one for the Toyota side. You can make a bunch of different scenarios and just keep track of all of your different, you know, projects and things like that in here, make market average plans. And so that's all within this singular project here. Yeah.
So, you know, as you say that, maybe could you go into the project that we built last month and show everybody how there's different scenarios in there?
That's a good
just as we're finishing up, there is one more question that came up. Just a clarification on the weekly, the defaults for the tool are weekly metrics. And yes, that was the question, and that's the answer. Yes, in the market planning tool, you can choose number of weeks. That functionality will eventually be added to the inventory planning section as well. I know that's something everybody's waiting for, but that will be coming soon as well. And you can see what Brian has here. So this was the project we set up last month, again, in preparation for the use case. And you can see how with last month there were 3 audiences. So kind of the current audience they tried to reach was 18 plus, but we were showing how, you know, you can look at different audiences. So one was for those interested in buying a truck, the other one was interested in buying a sedan, and set those up as inventory sets. And you can see how each of those are scenarios or quote unquote different campaigns that that you might be trying to run, or strategies is another way to look at it. So different strategies you might be wanting to sell them to a client as well. So I think that's really it for the Insight Suite, the demonstration. I want to jump back to the deck and have any just last few closing comments and thoughts. But please, as I'm doing this, please feel free to add any questions you might have as we go along with that. But I do want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time and sticking with us. I noticed a lot of people joined and stuck with us for the whole session. So granted, I do know there is, for some of you who've joined these a number of times, there's a bit of review in the upfront section, but I do want to make sure we're making these useful for everybody who joins. So for those of you who are relatively new and may not have joined the Insight Suite. But I do want to talk about Friday's session. So Friday's session, I mentioned Matthew Kelchner from EMC Outdoor, who is a digital media and analytics specialist, will be working with us, and we're going to be expanding on the Toyota use case that we looked at. So really, like, what is the agency planning process using the new Geopath Insights data? So we pulled a lot of that data today at a high level. We'll talk a little bit more about, how do we look at this project and how do we talk to clients and help them change their perspective on audience and what that means to be reaching audience versus, looking at locations only. And again, it does give a sneak peek into the planning process and how different agencies think about things. If you've been joining these, you'll know in May we did a similar session with Enza Chiodi from McDonald Media. So I think we're going to try to give as much perspective from as many different agencies and planners and researchers as we can across the industry, on both sides of the industry. So just coming up in August, there are our sessions will be on Wednesday and Thursday. So this is what I'm referring to. We were trying to do some summer hours, so to speak, because we realized Fridays in the summer are hard for everyone to join, but just didn't quite work out like that for this month in July. So we did the Wednesday session and the Thursday session to accommodate some different committee meetings we're having here at Geopath, as well as just the availability of our guest on Friday, Matthew. And so for the August sessions will be Wednesday, August 28th and Thursday, August 29th. So just for planning purposes. And one last thing, in case you missed it and want to brush up for the session on Friday, this is the session that we did on last month with Tony Chaffee and Alison Rupi from Adams. This is the one we referred to. So you can watch it and see how they approached this use case from the operator side. And then also, in case you missed it last month, we also did a webinar, Dylan and myself, talking about the new methodology, as well as how the new data inputs and how the new methodology is impacting impressions. And we broke that down by, vehicle occupancy, what changes there, illumination, pedestrian traffic. So it gets pretty granular on the different changes and what the impact of those are to impressions. So all of these can be found in our on our YouTube channel, but also in our Geek Out tab of our website. There's a screenshot of that. Just scroll down to the out of home office hours and you'll see the most recent ones. This one today will probably be up hopefully by the end of today, if not shortly thereafter. So again, any questions, please always reach out to us at geekout@geopath.org. That's our digital helpline. You can ask if you need help logging into anything. If you have an idea about a use case you want us to do, send that to us. If you have questions about inventory, the Insight Suite, just anything, please reach out to us there. Again, just want to say thank you to everybody. Really appreciate all of your time, and hope to see you on Friday. Thanks. Bye.